there's IPOs, there's, then what happens? Like that, what starts to take shape for this business? And so I think me and you have always seen it from afar, right? You look at the way they kind of their copy's changing on Jetpack and the way they kind of position the way it should feel like you said it, like this is the way you should experience WordPress.
This episode of the Matt Report is brought to you by MindSize. If you need WooCommerce support every month, head on over to mindsize.com. They have a ton of packages that you can jump into. You can get a site performance audit where they check out the performance of your WooCommerce site. It's not always just about caching, but the code and the database and everything else about it. You can schedule a consultation with them right on the website. If you want monthly support, this is one of my favorites, especially if I was a WordPress freelancer. I wouldn't want to mess around with having to support somebody's WooCommerce site who's doing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of product sales every single month. Let me just get back to what I do really good, which is building the site, consulting in the marketing side of it, maybe the content, shift all that other stuff off to mindsize.com. If you're in over your head with a support customer, maybe they'll even throw you a little commission. I have no promises, but you can always ask. That's mindsize.com. Thanks for supporting the show. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. A famous line from the Godfather Part III, and a recurring theme I've noticed for those of us who have used WordPress for a while. Explain. No matter how much we might moan about the shortcomings of WordPress, it's still pretty darn powerful. The core of WordPress is getting better. Read Gutenberg and full site editing. Some sharp edges, yes, but software is software. It will iterate into something great. Maybe you left WordPress a few years ago because of Gutenberg, but I bet you second-guessed yourself when that Netlify CMS lacked a user and permission systems, custom post types, and an easy way to install a contact form. Oh, and what about e-commerce? Yeah, well, what about it? WooCommerce, still the sleeping giant, is about to get some lemon squeezed right into the eye. J.R. Farr returns to the Matt Report to talk about his latest product, Lemon Squeezy, a not easy digital downloads alternative that is looking to take its share of the e-commerce market. Learn more about the collective and other products JR is a part of over at makelemonade.wtf. Was it 2 years ago? I remember taking a phone call from you. You were asking me about starting a podcast. You started a podcast.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, I would broadcast that podcast onto my big screen TV and watch you drink old fashions talking about startups. What happened?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So, so me and you go way back, right? Especially in the WordPress space. Mojo was a good ride. Built the marketplace up, went and did the executive life at Endurance for a long time, and then wanted to go on my own again. And so I got way into SaaS customer retention because of what we were doing at Bluehost and things like that. And so anyway, I was trying to get into that space and trying to find lightning in a bottle like I did with WordPress so quickly, right? It hit so fast. I was like, oh yeah, I can do this again. And, starting a company again is hard. And so we tried to get into that space, and it just kind of fell flat. And so, yeah, I did a podcast for it around it, and we broke down a lot of different SaaS companies, onboarding, offboarding, things like that. But yeah, it was fun though. I felt like I learned a lot, especially about podcasting and being able to articulate things with words, right?
Yeah.
A lot better. And so,
it was a great production.
Yeah. Thanks, man. It was actually, believe it or not, it was in my basement.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Yeah.
That was awesome. What's the difference in that world, let's say the SaaS world, that you learned? I mean, you came from WordPress, through WordPress, into Endurance, arguably the largest corporation that touches, well, I don't know if it's the largest, but a large corporation that touches WordPress. Then you go and try to do what many of us might listen to This Week in Startups, TechCrunch, and we're like, hey, SaaS world, where you at? Yeah. What's the biggest difference that you found from that world versus the WordPress world?
I mean, obviously the community is way different, right? Because there's so many different SaaS. You got enterprise, mid-market, small market, SMBs. You got Bootstrap versus not. Most people in the WordPress space are Bootstrap. So that was like everyone was on like somewhat of a playing field back in the day. I would say, and where I come from, everything has been Bootstrap. So I don't get me wrong. I definitely had opportunities. I still do to go raise like most of us, I guess. But it's in my roots, right? To like just build it and self-fund it and grow it. And so I would say that's like a big thing. Like when you're getting into that space, man, you're going up some big boys that have a lot of funding, even if they are in the SMB or mid-market or enterprise, right? Like you kind of there's just, the playing field is so much bigger,
Yeah.
So
this might be a softball question. I mean, I kind of know what it is because I know that you're going to have a biased question, especially now that you've launched Lemon Squeezy. And side note, it's not just an easy digital download replica. Okay,
yeah.
We've got a lot more that we're going to cover about Lemon Squeezy in a moment. Yep. But I've been having a lot of folks on my podcast recently in the no-code space. I've been fascinated with the no-code space, no-code, low-code space. For me, it sort of like brings that same energy back when I first discovered not even WordPress, but Drupal, when I could do things with Drupal as like a non-developer with CCK and views. And we're talking almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Being like, wow, I can code this without knowing this PHP thing. It's interesting that, well, here's a question. What if you were to start, and I know this is the softball moment, if you were to start a little bit more of a technical company today, maybe not WordPress, would you start with a WordPress framework, or would you combine a couple of no-code apps that you really love to do something else?
Well, I think luckily for me, like the teams that I have along the rides with me, they're technical enough that I don't have to, but I definitely think I honestly would maybe pick something else. I built Mojo on WordPress back then, and that was before WooCommerce and before easy to download. So like it was all custom, and just the limitations sometimes, around the database and queries and stuff, it's not built for that. So maybe if it's a marketing site, it's different. But when it comes to a full-blown apps, I just think there's way better options out there.
Yeah, so. There are so, it just seems like there's a no-code app coming online every single day to try to like compete against Airtable and Google Sheets and Glide and Bubble. Right. And I'm looking at it like I was looking at page builders rising 3 years ago in the WordPress space. And I'm just like, damn, man, are you all going to survive this? Or is this like is this the, survival of the fittest? And that's just the way the market plays out.
Yep.
How did you get, so the parent company, Make Lemonade, how did you form this team? Because I've had 4 out of 5 of you on my podcast.
The founding team, the co-founders, there's 4 of us, and it was quite a bit of work. It was probably at least a year and a half in the making of just chatting and what are you working on, what are you building, and what do you want to do. And so real quick, just talking about, let me just name if people don't know who we are. So Make Lemonade, was the idea of it is, when we were all talking before, we were kind of in the thick of 2020 where it was just shit, right? It was just a lot of sour lemons kind of getting thrown at everyone, right? All of us were getting hit with this. And so that's kind of where it was born. It was like, well, let's take these lemons and let's make some lemonade, And so we kind of, like you said, formed this quartet or Avenger group, or we call it a collective, which is Orman Clark, who's known for Dunked. He was also the kind of the guy that set the tone on Theme Forest years ago. And then Jason Schuler, Theme Garden, Press 75, and Gilbert, who is Nevo Slider for the OGs, and Spin Up WP, Delicious Brains, and myself. So we kind of all came together, and we kind of started to really get excited about this Make Lemonade idea. Let's bring all of our brands together. Let's bring all of our things we have together, and let's really see if we can build a collective and launch some pretty kick-ass products. And the first one is the biggest one that we're really, I guess, leaning most of our resources into is Lemon Squeezy.
Talk to me about how you kept these conversations going. I think that's one of the most unique things about WordPress is you have communities like, let's say post status and stuff like that. But I think that it goes even beyond that, where you see folks at a WordCamp, you see what they're doing in our space, and it's so easy to reach out. Was it like that for you? Or were you guys all in like a mastermind and connected in some other way? Like, who sparked the first conversation?
It was actually, so Jason and Orman and Chris Molitor were actually having conversations as well. And then Chris Molitor and Jason were actually building a product called Rivet, which was their foray outside of WordPress as well, kind of. It was, you could take your YouTube channel and build a site from it. I don't know if you guys ever saw that, but it's really cool. And I actually pinged them and said, hey guys, what are you doing with this? Like, can I help in any way? Looks like, maybe I could help with the marketing side, stuff like that. And so that kind of like kicked off a conversation, and then Orman got back involved, and then it was actually the four of us were chatting, and then eventually Gilbert kind of got brought up, and that's kind of how we kicked things off. But yeah, like it's funny because it goes back to where, I mean, Jason and I, we met similar to you, how me and you did, which was years ago at a conference. I think it was the first PressNomics, which was forever ago. And so, yeah, it's all about relationships, right? And I would say that I really pushed hard to get everybody. Like, I think that's one of my strengths is like being a connector and like making, allowing things to connect and kind of glue together. And I like to think that I really helped be influential in getting us all to finally do what we're going to do. Even bringing Gilbert over full time. He was at Delicious Brains building, they just launched Spin Up WP. So we had to convince him to come over. And so that wasn't some easy task, right? He was happy with where he was at. But it's worked out, and I think we've got a pretty solid team. We've actually brought in a few more, makers into the collective, which I can briefly mention, which is Mike McAllister, James Kemp, Patrick Posner, and there's a few guys from the old Mojo team that are actually helping with us too. So we've got a nice little squad that's working on stuff together.
Lemon Squeezy, the H1 is sell digital products the easy peasy way. E-commerce space, digital download space, massive, untapped, I think, in the WordPress world. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about all of these products that are listed on the makelemonade.wtf. That's the URL if you're listening to this, makelemonade.wtf. It'll be in the show notes. I'm on the webpage right now. Iconic app. I remember watching that launch and seeing that's pretty awesome. Positive Notes, Dunked, Premium Pixels, Kicklink, a whole bunch of stuff, and this new digital download product. How do you keep focus? Is that the magic of a collective? Like everyone sort of gets their own little, territory to cover? Break that down for me.
Yeah, so it ebbs and flows, right? So to be fair, some of these products were existing. So Dunked obviously was Orman's. He brought that into the collective. And so as we grow that, as a team, that kind of works its way into the collective. Iconic was new. But to be totally honest right now, the focus thing has been brought up. It's been a subject of like, what do we do? Let's be realistic. We are bootstrapped. There's only so many of us. Are we being silly by pulling ourselves too thin across everything? And so we continue to maintain the products that we have launched, so Dunked and Iconic and things. But right now, the focus is 100% Lemon Squeezy for the team.
I interviewed... Well, before I get there, let me ask you this question. On the collective, is there a way, like when you look at that and somebody's like, hey man, I would love to be part of this team, is like the application process, is your resume an existing product you've already built and you bring that to the collective to show it off? And how do I get my podcast in there? No, I'm just kidding. But like, how do I, like when you bring it there, like, is that the process? Is that how you look for a new member of the collective?
So that's like a really good question. I didn't even think about that before we came on, but that is a lot of it. I mean, we do have something that I've kind of put together how people come into the collective. There is a process to it. That's not the only way. So obviously if your skill set is what kind of we're looking for at the moment, there's different ways that we can kind of bring you in the collective where you can participate in all the products with us. As well as if you have your own product, then that gets the power of the collective, right? Like, I mean, look at Premium Pixels, for example. That's a really old brand, but I mean, as you can, there's tons of people on the email list, right? That just get featured into the rest of our products. But like Iconic app was very similar. That's James McDonald, if you don't know him, he's an amazing icon designer. And he wanted to do an icon set. And so the team kind of got together with him and he did all the icons and then we built everything else. And it leverages Lemon Squeezy to sell it. So that was like a really, really cool way to bring someone in to work on just an individual product with us. And then the other team members like Mike and James and Patrick, they're helping us Lemon Squeezy, but they're also going to get the benefit of the rest of the collective too. So it can go either way. It just really depends on the person. So
yeah. I interviewed Matt Mullenweg earlier this year, and I think that Well, maybe not. It might not be obvious to everyone, and maybe some of you out there are thinking, "Well, we've already got WooCommerce. We don't need anything else." Who could survive an e-commerce play in this space up against the giant that is WooCommerce and alternatives like Shopify? I know that, and I am by no means trying to give you, a veteran and proven CEO / entrepreneur, any advice, but I know that it's either going to take a boatload of money to compete or just a badass product that is just hitting it on all cylinders. I think this is not really a question. This is me just like pontificating this on a soapbox. Like, I think this is going to be a badass product. I think this is going to be the home run side of it. Inside, my gut says you probably feel the same way, because if you just execute on an amazing product, you can compete and you can win. Look at all the form plugins we have.
Right.
right. Look at all of the similar stuff we have that's out there. This is, just because the giant's out there doesn't mean you shouldn't build it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's a really good, and obviously we got to be realistic, right? Like, we are going up against some 800-pound gorillas, which is fine. I've done it before. But I think where Lemon Squeezy was different is it is a SaaS first product, right? So we kind of have this unique ability to package in a lot of features that, as much as I love WordPress, like, you do have to put together like a decent amount of plugins sometimes for something to work. That costs money, that's maintenance, that's conflicts, that's, maybe opening yourself up to some security issues depending on what kind of plugins you're getting if it's not from a reliable source. So I think that's a unique thing that we do have. And then I think the team that's building the Lemon Squeezy plugin, right? Even though it's V1 and it's not extremely powerful at the moment, but it gives you all the power Lemon Squeezy from day one, which I think is super cool. It's a totally different way of thinking about building it. And we can just totally, supercharge your WordPress site with Lemon Squeezy. So I think we're coming at it from a different angle, which is exciting for me. And it doesn't kind of pin us into one thing. But you're right. I mean, we're going to have to just iterate fast and quickly on this thing. So, when we first came out, it's interesting now that we're getting in the WordPress space. When we first came out, we looked at like a Gumroad alternative, right? It was just, that was kind of the feature set, but we're releasing some pretty big things around our website builder. And so that's kind of positioning us into a different market, the WordPress space. Now we're getting positioned in there against easy to downloads. But I will say one last thing about digital products is all of us come from that space, and it's complicated. Yes, there's WooCommerce, but it's meant for physical stuff. It does do digital stuff, but there's a lot to think about, right? Like security and how those files are delivered and software versioning. I mean, even just the auto updates and how you deliver the license keys. Like, there's a lot of stuff to think about, and then that ties way into support. How do you support the product? And so I think we've got a good a very good focus view on like how to tackle this.
How do you manage who gets the say in which features to add into a product like this? Because the Gumroad alternative, the easy digital downloads alternative, the lightweight version of WooCommerce, I don't, again, as somebody who hasn't had the same product success as you, but have been in companies that have had product success, I don't mind those comparisons because it's just easy for customers to understand.
Right.
But then there's like that 20% where you're like, month after month or quarter after quarter, you're like, okay, but we still need to keep edging our way to a differentiator,
right?
A different value prop. So who gets to lead that with this product?
Man, it's a good question. So right now, I think we've done a decent job with the four of us of allowing us to really give our say. I think when it comes down to let's just talk about design for a second, like how it looks. We all know that's Orman Clark. I mean, the guy is seriously brilliant when it comes to design. So we're only going to push it so far. And then I think it's pretty it's just like unwritten code that like Orman's going to make that decision, But then I think when it comes to like marketing and positioning, I think a lot of people look at me for that, and just how do we position this business or this product and so I think it really falls in more of a skill set, right? Gilbert's CTO when it comes to anything technical related in the product. Gilbert's probably going to have the final say in that. And so, yeah, so that's kind of how we've handled it so far. Yeah.
When I did talk to Matt, as part of what I was getting at before is I told him that I still think WooCommerce is, even though it is the giant, it's still a sleeping giant. Like I don't feel like Automatic has really started to tap the potential of.
I agree.
How flexible WooCommerce is going to be, and I think that you said before this is a SaaS first product. We're launching this. These are my words, not exactly yours, but we're launching SaaS because we can just control it a whole heck of a lot easier than if it was just a pure plugin. There's a pure plugin. We got to do the security patches, the updates, the UI updates. People start falling off. They haven't updated. It's a nightmare when you're trying to make a cohesive experience. And I think no code, heck, even Jetpack and tools like yours are going to condition the users over time, where once we really wanted our plugin and own it and have it in our WordPress site, to be like, screw it, just make it work. Like, okay, exactly. I install a plugin and I just want access. Just give it to me, because I think we're all just fed up with it up until this point. I don't know if that's good or bad for the long-term success of WordPress, because that's what got us here. But your thoughts? Well,
so when I first sat down with the guys and we started talking about Lemon Squeezy, and this is what we always go back to. This is like, this is the punchline. So, and this is going to sound kind of silly, but this is how I literally describe it to the team. And this is what we say whenever we start talking about the product, we're like Space Mountain, Space Mountain, which sounds weird, right? So that ride in Disneyland. So if you were to go to that ride, so picture it in your head, you walk up, you see the entrance and everything, and you're walking through it. It's really a whole experience from the moment you see it and you walk through it, right? It's all dark. And then you go through the ride and it's pitch black and there's lights and there's all kinds of things, but you can feel it as you're going through it, right? But you don't really know how this is all happening. But think about it for a second. If everybody flipped the lights on, there'd be rods and wires and probably bolts and dust and everything looking, right? And that's kind of the experience today, still after all these years, right? It's like, get your hosting, get your domain name, get your plugins, you're like putting together all these things with the lights on. And so in our mind, it's like easy peasy lemon squeezy. Let's just fast forward this thing a little bit and create a Space Mountain experience where you just hop on the ride and you're just enjoying the experience, and you're just there to have fun, have a good time, or you're just there to make money, or you're just there to sell this product or this widget or whatever it is. You don't have to think. And so that's kind of how we are building the product. So I will say, from a feature standpoint, we've got a long way to go, right? Like right now you can get in there, you can sell anything, subscriptions, memberships. We're also the merchant of record. So you don't even have to worry about setting up payment processors or, anything like that. It's all taken care of. And so I think as we add more features like email marketing and the builder and themes and stuff like that, I think people are going to really start to be like, oh, wow, like this is just all here with a click of a button. So
you don't have to comment on my crazy conspiracy theory, but I'll ask it. And we can cut the segment out of the show if you want.
Okay.
I really think that this concept, the Space Mountain rides, fantastic metaphor for all of this stuff, is also how Jetpack is attempting to win in the long run. Okay. And I'm of the mindset that, I don't know, 2 years from now, you'll go to WordPress.org and it'll say, download WordPress with Jetpack. Or download free WordPress or open source version of WordPress. Whatever sounds uglier for you to say, I don't want that. I want this because this is the best way to experience WordPress is with Jetpack. Sure. And I think that's the model that Jetpack will ultimately win with, as much as we all are like, oh, not on our lawn, this thing here. Yeah. But I think that is how WordPress wins, or Automatic wins in that space. Thoughts on that WordPress experience? Is Jetpack in the front row seat for a win like that?
Oh man, I have so many thoughts. I mean, I'll say a couple things on it. It's really interesting to think about that from Matt's perspective, because Matt's always said he wants to get to 50% of the internet uses WordPress. But I don't know what he's thought of after that. I don't know what happens when he hits that goal, right? Does there's IPOs, there's, then what happens? Like that, what starts to take shape for this business? And so I think me and you have always seen it from afar, right? You look at the way they kind of their copy's changing on Jetpack and the way they kind of position the way it should feel like you said it, like this is the way you should experience WordPress. I actually think they say it on Jetpack's website. So I think we've always thought that was going to happen. It's just when and if, and I don't know if it's going to be triggered more around what happens with Matt and Automatic, right? With the IPO, or when it hits the 50%, or is he waiting for something like that for, in order to have to do it at that time? But
yeah. Friend of the show, I don't know if you know him, Jordan Gall. He started Carthook and now he's on to another e-commerce product called Rally.io, which is I hope I'm getting this right. He either says it's a decoupled or headless e-commerce experience.
Okay.
He was building a product. I think it started off as cart abandonment or cart recovery, hence the Carthook name. Built it in Shopify's Playground, and eventually just got what I'll say is crushed by Shopify. He's not a happy camper.
Really?
Yeah, he's been a lot more vocal about it. There's a great Business Insider article, which I'll try to remember to link up to it here in the show notes. And I'm going to have him on the show actually next week to kind of talk about a little bit of that stuff. Your thoughts on, playing in somebody else's playground? Is that something that ever comes up, or you're like, do you look at this as it's okay? This is why we're building it as SaaS. We start with WordPress, we build up there, we springboard to full on, just come to our website and sign up.
Exactly. And even right now, I mean, even before we came into WordPress, right? Lemon Squeezy's been live. It's been launched. We have paying customers that are just coming to us from their own ways, right? Not WordPress. So we already have that going. I look at WordPress as like our biggest integration, right? Or our biggest extension. And it's been interesting because ever since we've launched the API, we have is it Statmatic? Is that the... Shoot, I think it's the CMS. There's other people already building plugins around other platforms. So, obviously we've been talking about maybe an integration with Castos, or, the Shopify people have wanted to do Shopify plugins for Lemon Squeezy. So I think we'll continue down this path, just as a way for distribution. That's the way I'm looking at it. Not so much a risk to the platform, because right now we're, like you said, it's SaaS and we can kind of control our destiny, which is nice.
Yeah. Just to recheck myself, dear listener, it's rallyon.com, not rally.io. Rally.io is a creator coin economy. Nice. Rallyon.com is Jordan's next venture. You'll hear him probably coming up on the next episode.
Cool.
The future for WordPress and full site editing. I mean, is this anything that comes up on your calls at all with the team? Like when you talk about the Space Mountain ride, does this matter to you? Like full site editing, Gutenberg, Elementor, and like this massive, whirlwind of stuff happening. Does it matter to you, or not so much?
Yes, it does. I think that, because I think the approach we want to take is, and this is what I mentioned about the plugin, right? Lemon Squeezy's plugin today, you can connect your store, and then you really experience Lemon Squeezy over Lemon Squeezy, but then you use your WordPress website to kind of display it, right? So it's not, we would like to maybe look at bringing some more stuff so we're not having to force people to come over to us, right, if they don't want to. And I think that's how we're thinking about it, is how do we look at some Lemon Squeezy powered themes? Probably not. There's some Elementor add-ons we've discussed. So yeah, we're absolutely thinking about how do we make it, but it's more in the sense of like that customer, right? Like what are they experiencing and how do we make this nice for them, right? Rather than forcing them to come to Lemon Squeezy if they don't want to. That's really how we think about it. But I think in terms of the plugin to start, I think we're going to focus more on features that people really want to leverage, like restrict content has been the really exciting one. Migration tools for the other popular providers. Those are the things that we're working on now. And then from there, we'll kind of see what people want. So
I don't have any segments on the show, but if I did have one, it might be like read mean WP Tavern comments, just like this read mean tweets like celebrities do. When this was announced and launched, which was what, 2 days ago, right? The 10th.
The plugin. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How was the reaction, good or bad? Otherwise, anything surprise you, both positively, negatively, that you'd like to talk about that you saw from Twitter comments or anything like that? That was.
So it's interesting, right? Because for the most part, I would say it's 99% excitement. Everyone's super excited, mostly probably because of the team. I think they see the team and they're like, oh, wow, I had no idea that this is who's behind this. So that's been really cool. But there definitely is like coming back into the WordPress space after being here for so long. And I did take a break for a while, coming back into it. I did forget, like, there's definitely people that are, if they don't know us or they don't know where we come from, right? There's definitely been like some, well, what is this? And who are these guys? And how could they possibly think they could do this? And so there's been a few of those, and I just kind of laugh it off. But I think we'll eventually, hopefully, win them over. But if not, there's always a Pepsi and a Coke and you know what I mean? And I don't mind being a Pepsi,
Right.
If there's already a Coke, I have no problem with that. And so we're just giving people options. So.
LemonSqueezy.com. I'm looking at the pricing. Starts at $9 a month. No free plan.
Yeah, and I can talk about that. Yeah, we did have a free plan. We did the transaction model where you would pay high transaction fees on a free plan, and we had, oh man, like tens of thousands of people literally using the platform. Like it was a lot, and so and it's great, but like you need a ton of volume for that model to really play itself out, and time. And so being bootstrapped, it's like, let's just focus on building a product that people want to pay for. Let's make everything SaaS. And we had to kind of roll back, and there's been a lot of angry people about that. And so we're trying to find the best pricing. And so this is what's working at the moment. And I think as we add new features, maybe prices go up. Maybe there's a new plan that gets introduced. I don't know. But right now, I think we've found a good price, because what we did actually is we did look at if I was going to do a digital download store or sell something digital using WooCommerce or easy digital downloads, we wanted to make Lemon Squeezy cheaper. So not for a race to the bottom, but just we were trying to be realistic with the features that we do offer right at the moment. And so that's kind of where we're settling. It seems to be working though. Like I said, outside of WordPress, we've had plenty of signups, and so we're doing well. But I'm really excited to see this get into the WordPress ecosystem and just offer something fresh and new, and that wasn't built, forever ago. So, yeah.
$9 a month is still pretty darn affordable. It's only $90 for the year, sans the transaction fee for selling, which you're going to get no matter where you go, unless you only accepted check by mail, which you're still going to be paying a fee on that too. Did you find, and again, like with the prefix that $9 is still pretty affordable, did you find a better, more qualified type of customer from moving away from free? It's always like the most demanding customers want things for free, and then as soon as they start to pay, they're a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly. And our support totally changed too. Like it was actually just like a lot of bottom feeding, right, kind of things going on. And the support is actually way higher now, but it's really good, like questions, like people are in a trial or they have questions about this or that, or we're getting way more feedback on the product. And like, well, if you guys had this, I would sign up, or, you know what I mean? Like, so you're right. It's attracted the right people. And then you know what I mean? Like it's like the Henry Ford thing, right? It's like, if I listen to my customer, I just build a faster horse. But now I feel like we're listening to customers that are really willing to pay, and they are paying, and it's cool to see.
Yeah, man. I mean, you say that there's not a lot of features, or, you feel like you might not have as many features as the rest. You look like you get a nice feature set here.
Well, yeah. So let me actually rephrase that. That's a good point. From a e-commerce perspective, selling things, I think we're really good. We do a ton of stuff. And especially for someone that's just like, doesn't want to have to worry about anything with the merchant of record, I think it's like super slick to sign up for Lemon Squeezy and you can just start selling. Where we're really going to double down on next is the publishing and editing experience where you can actually have your own storefront and website with themes. Orman Clark and Jason and Mike, they're all going to have some pretty amazing themes that you're going to be able to use with Lemon Squeezy. And then Gilbert's been working on a full-blown like e-commerce, email marketing, e-commerce solution. So think about filtering and segmentation around your user base, right? Whether they're coming in on a landing page, subscribing to a newsletter, or if they've purchased a product or multiple products, where you're going to be able to filter, segment, send emails, take actions depending on who they are, what they bought, So that's the kind of stuff that I think we're moving into next. But you're right. From an e-commerce perspective, I think that, you can do pretty much everything except for sell an online course at the moment. That's the only real feature left.
Semi hot seat question. The usual suspects aside in the software licensing key plugin space. Software's licensing key, I don't really see that come up on other e-commerce platforms so prominently. Is this the easiest way to kind of break into what I'll say is the available customer base of WordPress that you can go after?
That's funny. Really? Yeah.
It could be that I'm not looking for software licensing on other platforms, but maybe other platforms are doing it and I just don't see it. I just see this as a very WordPress thing.
You know what? I didn't even think about it that way. I think, why it's maybe so important to us is because maybe where we come from. Maybe because we are so heavy from the WordPress space. It's like what we're used to. But I will say, like, people that sell, Tailwind components and things like that, they want to have licensing stuff done. So it's applicable other places. But it's funny you say it that way because I guess it could look like that. But I think a lot of it was just influenced where we came from.
Yeah, cool, man. Lemonsqueezy.com. Check it out, starting at $9 a month. I mean, it looks pretty fantastic to me. I was about to say any Black Friday deals, but how much cheaper could you get for $9 a month?
I think we're going to avoid it, actually. I think we're going to try to, I don't know, just not do that. See how it goes.
Cool,
but,
man.
Yeah.
JR Farr, anything else that you'd like to leave the audience with, anywhere they should go to say thanks?
Oh, man. I really appreciate you bringing me on, Matt. I try to listen to your show and everything that you do. And I think you're definitely the best at this. So it's exciting to be back in the WordPress space and be with that community again, and maybe win over a few new hearts that don't know us yet. So, but no, thanks again, man. And definitely follow along.
Absolutely. Everybody else, everybody listening, check out lemonsqueezy.com. Check out everything JR and his team are doing. If you want your weekly dose of WordPress news in 5 minutes or less, go to thewpminute.com. Join the private Discord, $79 for the year. You get to get your hand in the weekly WordPress news, get shout outs, help shape the news, part of the team. #Link Squad. You know who you are. All right. We'll catch you in the next episode.